You've made it to cycle one. Cycle one starts with this article, Names, Nicknames, and Identity. So I want you to follow along as I read this article to you. Names are much more than just words. They are a crucial part of our identities, reflecting who we are and how we see ourselves. Often, a name is the first thing we learn about a new person, and our own name is one of the first things we learn to read and write. Our names may represent our cultural, religious, or family history. Naming ceremonies like christenings or baptisms are important in many cultures. Nicknames can communicate affection and belonging. A new name can signal a new identity. During big transitions, people sometimes decide to change their names, like dropping a childhood nickname when starting college or deciding to take a spouse's name when getting married. Sometimes we may use different names with different groups of people. Example, our families call us one thing and our peers call us something else, and we may associate different certain parts of our identities with those different names. On the other hand, nicknames can also be a way to mock or humiliate someone, signaling that someone doesn't actually belong or highlighting a part of someone's personality or history that he or she is embarrassed by. So I want you to reread this excerpt from pages 3 to 4, and I want you to think about how the description of names in this excerpt reflect the ideas of this article. The excerpt is, nobody had called me Kicker for a long time. Mad Max, they were calling me, or Max Factor, or one butthead in LD class called me Maxi Pad until I persuaded him otherwise. Graham and Graham always called me Maxwell, though, which is supposed to be my real name, and sometimes I hated that most of all. Maxwell. Ugh. So I want you to think about how these nicknames are being used. Are they being used as like part of their identity? Are they being used to mock? Think about all those bolded nicknames. How are they being used? Pause the video and answer that question. And then we are going to start reading on page 38. So I'd like you to open up your books and follow along. Chapter 7, Walking High Above the World. You ever notice how the smell of gunpowder makes you thirsty? Because after the fireworks, I'm aiming us for the food carts, or for where the food carts are parked along the street, thinking about an ice cold lemonade, how clean it will taste. And for a moment, I almost forget that Freak is riding on my shoulders. Amazing perspective up here, he's saying. This is what you see all the time. I'm not that big, I say. This way, you're like 2 feet taller than me. Cool, he says. I love it. We're working our way through the crowd, and we're almost to the food carts when Freak tugs on my hair. Cretin at 2 o'clock, he says, real urgent. 2 more at 3 o'clock. I go, huh? What? The Blade and his gang, Freak hisses. They've locked onto us. Their trajectory is converging. Go to the left, he says. Make it quick if you want to live. Too bad I'm a little confused about rights and lefts. If I don't think about it, I know. If I don't think about it, I know. But if I have to think about it quick, my mind goes blank. Right? Left? What does it all mean? Left! Freak says, and he kicks me with his little foot, like he's digging into a horse, and it clicks in my head. Go that way. Follow the feet. Faster! Freak is saying, and he's urging me on. It's lucky for me the little dude doesn't have any spurs, but I don't care. I just want to get clear of Blade. Spurs are like little spinny pokey things on the back of cowboy boots. Warp Factor 9! Freak is shouting. More speed, almighty beast! Now I'm running at a full gallop, weaving through the crowd, and I don't even need to look back. All I have to do is follow the way Freak is kicking his feet, steering me. I'm pretty sure we're getting away until this punk comes out of nowhere. He's one of Blade's gang, and he's got this big ugly grin. Over here, Tony! Got him cornered! What do I do? Oh. What do I do? I say to Freak. He goes, I'm thinking. I can hear Blade before I can see him, hear his wicked laugh, so mean and dirty it makes my stomach freeze up and my knees feel squishy. You, the Freak, you and the giant retard, I'll cut you down to size, dice and slice, baby, freak show time. And now I can see that pointed white grin and his eyes so dark and cruel, and he's swaggering through the crowd. He's got us surrounded with punks. Everywhere I turn, there's another mean face trying to look as tough as Tony D. We're gonna pause there. Our question here is consider what we've read about the names and nicknames. Why might Tony D go by the alias The Blade? We know that an alias is a name that you use instead of your name. And we also know why that's different than a nickname. So why do you think he goes by that alias? Why might Freak Show call him The Blade on page 39 instead of Tony D? Because he hasn't called him Tony D until this point. Or he hasn't called him The Blade until this point. He's only called him Tony D. When you're done, move on to cycle 2.